Hello and welcome back to the Villa View for a post-match reaction, which is a couple of days later than we usually would like to do. Then we like to meet up and speak outside Villa Park, but circumstances haven't allowed for that this time. The wind was actually horrendous today. I was getting blown out all over the place, so hopefully the audio inside is a little bit better today. I'm joined by James Rushton, who hosted fan cams. Thanks, James, for doing that, by the way. And we're going to have a little chat about Villa versus Ipswich. Obviously, Aston Villa won 2-1. James, you were there. What did you think of the game?
I think when we tried to record this post-match, I think we were a tiny bit negative, actually.
Yeah.
The day after, I think, is a better time to record because I'm feeling a lot more positive. And a few of the people I've spoken to, I think we saw Rich today at the Villa Ladies game, and he was on fan cams yesterday. And he was just surprised at how much negativity there was. And I am too. I mean, it's kind of hypocritical because me and you had a few moans yesterday. But thinking about how it all turned out, I'm not too worried about it. I'm not too upset or disappointed. I think we got the 3 points and we performed fairly well. And I think you can't really argue too much with that.
Like you say, after the game, it was a little bit just a weird feeling. Like the atmosphere was never really up there. The performance wasn't great, but then you look at the stats and we've had 12 shots on target or whatever it is, and Tammy Abraham scored 2. John McGinn probably could have scored at least 1, and you look at those facts and think, oh, it must have been a decent game. But coming straight out from the game, it was just a bit of I don't know, just didn't feel right. Maybe fan cams only sort of 7-8 people turned up. Maybe that sort of contributed to the feeling of just a bit of disappointment. Obviously, thanks to the people that did show up. Obviously, just a smaller turnout. The weather was bad. It's just a weird day. But then the next day, you look back at it and go, yeah, well, it's 3 points against the bottom of the league in a game that we all expected to win. We've won it. Decent game. We move on to the next one.
Yeah, so Tammy Abraham will obviously enter a bit of history, and he'll become our first 20 goals in the league goal scorer since Peter Whiff, and that's before most people probably watching were born. I was born 13, 14 years after that happened, which is ridiculous. And the amount of people who've come close and not succeeded, you got a long list of names, and 2 of those are recent. You got Kodja and Benteke, who come quite close to that. And Adoma was probably on track last season as well before he's probably started leveling out his performances. So we've always been there, but no one has pushed towards that like Tammy Abraham, and it's amazing to see him score so many goals. And maybe it's overperformance. I'm just grateful. A lot of people saying he could have finished more chances, but what he's been doing all season is finishing probably more chances than he should. Yesterday, a lot of criticism probably reflects a scoreline 2-1. But I think if you're going to criticise anyone and you wanted that 6-0, 4-0, 4-1 victory, you have to look at Abraham and McGinn, because those are the only 2 people who could have changed that. And it's ridiculous to think that the 2 people we'll criticise coming out of that would be Abraham and McGinn, because they're the only 2 people who would have affected that scoreline, because those are the 2 people who had the chances to make that scoreline even more, larger.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because you can sit here and complain all you want, but we've won a game 2-1. So you can't complain about that too much, because for a long time we've talked about, results over performances is the main thing, but then you sort of get the luxury of having a few nice performances that when you dip back down to not performing, that the result isn't as important anymore, that we are coming away with some sort of frustration over a 2-1 home win. Why? What's the point? We've won a game. That's the main thing. Does the performance matter? It's arguable, isn't it? Because obviously you want to perform and play to the best of your ability all the time, because that will lead to results more consistently. But we know that we've seen it before, so to get sort of downbeat over one or 2 games where the performance isn't great but you still win anyway, sort of feels counterproductive to me, because you should just look at that, take the positives of whatever they were that you can, and move on to the next one. And yesterday is one of those ones where it's almost just build the momentum. I think I saw somebody on Twitter say that after you've been on a bad run, the game that you win to break that is always a little bit messy.
Yeah.
Just because you haven't won for a while, so when it does come, you're sort of on edge a little bit. You take the confidence from winning at home. You go to, is it Reading up next, and you go there and try and get 3 points again. And if you do, maybe we can start talking about Villa putting a run together.
Yeah, I think it was always going to be messy, and it wasn't the best. And I think Villa could have done better.
3 points is 3 points, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. 3 points is 3 points, and I think if we're nitpicking at performances, we're going to nitpick at performances, right? But I think Villa tallied up 3.7 expected goals, which in terms of that metric, when teams tally up 3.7 expected goals in terms of quality of chances, those scorelines are usually 6 or 7-0. That's, to rack up that amount of quality chances is incredible. And it's probably a failure, the single failure on Villa's part, that they couldn't score 6 or 7 goals. But I think if that's what you're looking at as the negative point, then we're in a really privileged position, basically. Oh, I can't get those words out, sorry. We're in a really privileged position if we're moaning about that.
Yeah, the expected goals stat is one that sort of bypasses me a little bit. I'm not sure whether I fully understand it. I'll get it, but part of me just thinks that, like what?
Well, so basically, shots, you like to measure stuff by shots on target, right? But if you were to have 40 shots on target, what if they're all from the halfway line? Is that better than 40 shots on target from the penalty spot? And that's kind of what expected goals measures, the quality of chance, how many times do you score from that opportunity. So when it's weighted towards, if you've got 3.7 expected goals, you've put a lot of good chances in from quality areas where you usually see a goal. So you can kind of measure that. And over the season, the best teams, the teams that are really performing are usually overperforming their expected goals. It's stuff, it's better in the long term. But match by match basis, we can look at that and say, hang on, we really made some chances to do some damage there.
Yeah, I definitely knew what expected goals was. I was just leaving that in there for the people that don't know.
You're just playing up to them.
Definitely. A hot talking point that's been going on at the moment. A few months ago it was the goalkeeper. A few weeks ago it was the defence. Now it seems to be the midfield that's the hot talking point. What's going on there? What did you assess from yesterday's game? I've seen varying reports on Twitter that Conor Hourihane played well. Conor Hourihane went missing again, and Glenn Whelan was poor. Glenn Whelan had the best game in a Villa shirt. Obviously, opinions are always going to differ, but how can it be such different levels that we all look at the same game and come out of it differently? What did you think of that midfield trio yesterday?
It wasn't that bad. I think people were really gunning hard for Conor Hourihane, and I feel that's quite a shame because his returns were 8 assists, 4 or 5 goals, and last season he had double digits. He has kind of performed consistently for us.
People say take away the goals and assists. What does he offer?
I don't know, because goals and assists are what he offers. Glenn Whelan had a really good game yesterday. He does a lot of quiet stuff. No one kind of looks at his passing ability. It's first touch passes all the time, really quick release of the ball.
Yeah,
that's never focused on. That is never, because it's a really pretty skill to have, but it's one of those pretty skills that kind of no one looks at. And he does it all the time. Even in his bad games, he's releasing the ball quickly. And yeah, people do focus on him. The other team will focus on Glenn Whelan because he isn't the quickest player. But I think his passing ability it's up there. John McGinn wasn't great with the ball yesterday. In terms of passing the ball, he wasn't great with the ball. He did make the chances. But most of the time, the ball was going astray. And Conor Hourihane's placing the ball all the time. It's probably 95% success rate. And, you can nitpick with the midfield, you can nitpick with the defence, you can nitpick with the attack. What I saw was it wasn't a complete team performance, but it was positive and it was getting there. Because Villa have lost that exact game, that exact performance that we've seen Villa lose.
The chances that happened, we probably could have lost the game. They hit the post, so that's a chance where you look at it and go, well, that's very, very easily could have been 2-2 coming out of this game. The penalty situations at the time, we sort of, after the game, we were chatting and almost guessing on what we thought we'd seen. Looking back at it now, at the time, I thought our penalty was a definite, but you look at it I've only seen one angle of it, but from that angle, it looks like McGinn's gone down very easily. So whether that should have been given or not is questionable. People were talking about the Elphick one. And from what I can remember from that, he sort of slid for the ball and his arm sort of gone over it. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. The talk seems to be that we might have got away with one. You just look at those minimal stats and go, maybe Villa could have lost that game yesterday. On the flip side, Tammy Abraham probably should have scored a hat-trick, and John McGinn probably could have got 2 as well. So it was a weird game.
A lot of people are saying, in praise of Whelan, it came with a caveat that, it's just against Ipswich. I think that's kind of ridiculous because that performance, Villa lose in a few games playing that way. Right? It's the cliche, you can only beat the team that's in front of you. Yeah. And yesterday, Ipswich were in front and we beat them. So happy days. Yeah.
Talk about the fan reaction a little bit. Do you think there's a sort of overreaction sometimes in a negative way to a positive result?
That's just kind of the symptoms of being a football club. Like yesterday, Everton fans were going quite nuts on Twitter because they were knocked out of the FA Cup by Millwall. And I think these are situations that do just happen. It's things that every football club kind of goes through. If you only need to look at Arsenal to see kind of fan overreaction. So every club does have fans that will overreact. I think we feel that it probably happens more with Villa because we're embedded in that fan base.
Yeah.
We've criticised the atmosphere at Villa Park a few times. myself especially on previews, podcasts, and all that. But I do think there is kind of an expectancy that Villa should blow away every game. And
so do you think that's why we almost feel annoyed that it's only 2-1, because we feel like we should be winning 4-5-0?
Yeah, I think, I'm guilty of that myself, so I'm not going to sit here on a pedestal and kind of criticise other fans and do the whole better fan thing. I don't believe in that at all, because I felt it myself. I felt, we should have blew Ipswich away yesterday. Another game, we would have, another day, that's 5-0, easy. 5-2, 5-1, call it what you want. We score those chances that we didn't. Those games, the game states are always in flux and they change, and the situations in each game just goes out the window each time. You're only left with, ironically, the result that happened, and that was a 2-1. I think, Dean Smith has said stuff himself. It wasn't the perfect performance. I think everyone is aware what happened yesterday. Probably not Paul Lambert, but I think everyone else is aware of what happened. And it was it wasn't the prettiest win, but it wasn't ugly by any chance. I think Villa were rocked by a late goal, a decent strike. Any team that is hit like that, punched in the throat like that, takes a while to recover. It's just like boxing. If you're hit with a sucker punch, if you're hit in the stomach, you're going to be winded. If you're hit like that, it's going to take you by surprise. And especially after you made a substitution, after you brought on Almo to kind of reassure things on the wing. I don't know if he did that, but if you've brought on Almo, if you've made a sub to kind of dominate the game, or, accept the game state, and that game state changes because they've hit you like that, you've got a problem. And Villa had a problem yesterday, and it's not really one there's a correct answer to. Do you want to sit back and invite pressure, or do you want to go through it and leave yourself open? It's your choice.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below and subscribe to the Villa View YouTube channel. James, thanks for joining me to chat all things Ipswich Town. I'm sure we'll be speaking to you again soon at some point. Doing a shoot at Villa Park this morning with the Aston Villa ladies. They played Leicester in a game at Villa Park, and a little bit inspired after that today, James. Made some good videos with Villa, so thought we'd sit down and talk Villa a little bit more. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel and up the Villa.
If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking our logo there on the left. Easy peasy.